Thank you. So, like everybody else, I really want to thank you all for being here. I was one of the planners for this first breakfast years ago, and it was a small, tight little group. So I am very happy to see everybody. Could you just raise your hand if this is the first It's Your Business breakfast you've attended? All right, great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. Deborah spoke very eloquently about the work of Jane Doe, and so my role really is to thank you for being here, but really to remark on Deborah's extraordinary leadership, leading the board and the staff of Jane Doe to do the great work. We have nothing but good and hard work ahead of us, and we're up for the task. But I also want to say a special word about Joe Timilty. And he has been our partner on this breakfast since the beginning. He is a powerful advocate for the underdog, and I'm very grateful that he chose this cause to really support. I also want to let you know that you may have seen Prison Journal, which is a copy of his memoir, and we're going to be not auctioning, what's it called? Raffle off a copy. But I want to say I read this 5 or 6 years ago, and it is this really wonderful, irreverent tale about a 4-month stint in federal prison for not, let's see, I have this written down. I'm going to read it. An intriguing memoir of a life-changing experience, Prison Journal provides an eye-opening look at a senseless system that squanders countless dollars on rigid bureaucracy and hypocritical rehabilitation efforts. Joe's memoir is searing, it is funny. If you know Joe, you will read him. He is on the page, and he very generously is donating a portion of the proceeds of the sales. His books will be featured in Star Market and what's the other? Shaw's and Star Market. And so we are very grateful for his continued generosity, and I'd love to have a round of applause for him. At this time, I'd like to ask Sheila Green to come up because we're going to pull the winning tickets for the Red Sox tickets and a copy of Prison Journal. Okay, Sheila. Yeah. Okay, so from Eastern Bank, Lisa Carboni is winning the Red Sox tickets. Oh, and also from Eastern Bank, clearly they bought their cards. Carolyn Crowley is winning a signed copy of Prison Journal, so congratulations. At this time, I'd like to ask Greg Timilty to join us, please.
On behalf of the Timilty family, I want to thank everyone for being here today, especially Speaker DeLeo. I think we omitted one elected official. We also have Senator Jim Timilty here. Not the real Senator Timilty. I guess it's hard to find a parking spot in the Back Bay nowadays. But I want to thank you on behalf of Kelly. This is an event that would have made her so proud. It's a room that was really important to her, as this was where her wedding reception took place. She, to me, in this issue, I never really, as a young man in late teens, when she decided she was moving back from Washington to run for the Governor's Council, I didn't know what the Governor's Council was at the time. And I didn't know why she wanted to, instead of state rep or something else, but she was really, in her experience with Joe Moakley in the late 80s, early 90s, when these issues started to come about, when these issues stopped being in the back rooms of people's houses and started to be publicized, and they started to come up with terms like domestic violence, which didn't exist until those times, until the federal government started to tackle these issues. And Kelly First as an intern and then as a full-time employee, got a chance to work hands-on on a lot of these issues. And that's what inspired her to come back and run for Governor's Council. She ran in a tough race with 11 guys and 1 woman. She ran successfully for 9 terms. But when she was first elected, she was the only woman in the body. And when judges were being confirmed, these questions weren't being asked unless they were being asked by Kelly. And she was very proud of that. And me, it kind of formed my thought process around this issue. As we campaigned, it was part of her literature, the phrase domestic violence, probably the first time I ever saw it in the early 90s on her campaign literature. But we've obviously come a long way through the help of a lot of people in this room. I thought, on this issue, it's front page news now, especially in the sports world. This past weekend, I see it now with my son who's 7, and we can't watch ESPN. We couldn't watch the draft because there was more debate during this past NFL draft about whether or not somebody had domestic violence in the history as opposed to how they could play football. And it's a major issue. And these are players who are going to make millions of dollars, teams that are going to invest a lot of time and effort into it, and they're debating whether or not they can take a chance on a guy who's beaten up his spouse or his girlfriend 3 or 4 times. And then we went into Saturday night and we celebrated probably one of the most disgusting serial abusers. He left there with $180 million, and probably a lot more fans. And it's something that I see with my 7-year-old. He can't watch TV anymore. It's the news. It's the 5 o'clock news. Now it's ESPN. Now it's Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson will find a job this year. Maybe Ray Rice won't, but Adrian Peterson will be playing somewhere this year. And I have to explain that to my 7-year-old, why that's such a big issue in the NFL. It's not just the NFL. It's Major League Baseball. It's the NBA. And we ought to be thankful that these issues are coming up right now, because the NFL is bringing this into people's living rooms, again, in a terrible light. The NFL draft was a disgrace. To listen to some of these sports commentators talking about people's violent histories. This was the debate, and whether or not they can go in the first round and make a couple $1 million, or maybe you fall to the 3rd round, but you're still going to get picked. And so this is something that the fight goes on, and it's great to come in here and speak about it, and it's important to advocate for it, but the rubber's got to meet the road somewhere. And I think that's where Speaker DeLeo comes in, because he's been a tireless advocate for this. He's a person who, some other members of the House and other elected officials here, a few smarter elected officials who got out and have moved on. But when you run for office, especially when you become Speaker of the Massachusetts House, you have a target on your back. You have to have a lot of courage to get up and go on and keep fighting for these causes. Nobody is looking to throw accolades at elected officials anymore. It's almost like a bad word. And I know that these elected officials aren't looking for a profile of courage, but I'm just going to tell you, it's not easy. It's not easy to put your name on the ballot. It's not easy to read your name in the paper, but it's the things that kind of drive you, and I know that drive Jimmy, and I know that drive the Speaker, are these issues, and the ability to help people, especially this type of personal help. And I just want to say, the Speaker, I follow the Speaker's career because Seth Cattell is such a great friend of mine. I'm really proud of the work that you guys have done. I'm proud of the courage that you display on a daily basis. I know it's not easy, and I appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
Greg, thank you so much for those wonderful remarks. I truly appreciate it. And as a longtime fan and supporter of the former Senator Timilty, as well as the present one too, but especially the former one, to get this award means so much to me. I always admired Kelly's work on the Governor's Council and learned more about her in terms of her commitment to making sure that she got it right, that we had the best possible judges on our benches here in Massachusetts, and for her commitment to domestic abuse and sexual violence and bullying, in addition to that, is something which I will always remember. And to receive an award in her honor is so greatly appreciated. I originally had about 8 pages of remarks here, pretty much summarizing what this legislation is all about and what exactly it means. For whatever reason, after coming here and seeing some of the folks here today, I'm not sure if I'm going to do all that. But I would like to talk a little bit about maybe how the legislation came to fruition, and maybe a little bit about how important the role that each and every one of you play here today in making sure that in the years ahead we can see improvement in terms of how we handle and prevent domestic violence. As was probably mentioned earlier, I became interested, well, I've been interested in this issue for a while, but what really hit home to me, quite frankly, was the so-called Jared Remy case. As I watched that unfold on TV and in the newspapers, and I looked at Mr. Remy, and I would say to myself, that's a tragedy waiting to happen. And unfortunately, some 2 days later, my prediction became true. And I said, you know, I've got to do something about that. How could that happen? How could this young lady, full of so much life and energy, how could one day it's all snuffed out and it's gone? What happened? It wasn't so much that I was looking to throw the blame at this one or that one, or it wasn't anything like that. It was just that I said that we had to do something about it. And I started to talk to people, and they would say to me, Mr. Speaker, a lot of these deaths are preventable. And that word always stuck in my mind, preventable. And that means maybe I can do something about it. You know, the job of speaker, Greg's right, it's tough. Let me tell you, as you all read about me, you know.